These are your solutions to your equations and inequalities review sheet. Be sure that you are using a grading pen to show all the correct steps for any problems that you might have missed. All right, starting with the first one, we need an equation that will represent the perimeter. If you need to, you might consider labeling all four sides. It's easy to forget that there's actually four sides, and you need to include all of those expressions. So I'm going to add up x plus x for the shorter sides, plus 2x plus 3 plus 2x plus 3, and all together that's going to equal 30 inches because that's my total perimeter. There's a couple ways to write that equation, so you might have done it as 2x plus 2 times the quantity of 2x plus 3, and that would be the same thing. Both of those we could combine like terms, and it would simplify to 6x plus 6 equals 30. From there, subtract 6 from each side, and lastly, divide by 6. So we get an x value of 4, and remember that that's in inches. Then it says what's the side length of each of your rectangle sides. So we could say that the shorter sides are, since they're equal to x, they're each going to be 4 inches. And the longer sides, for those we would do 2 times 4 plus 3, which would be a side length of 11 inches. And then it's a good idea to do a very quick check. If we have 4, 4, 11, and 11, all four of those sides should add up to 30 inches. And if we add both the 11s and both the 4s, we do get 30. So it's a good way just to check to make sure that you have the right side lengths. All right, moving on to inequalities. We have a couple two-step inequalities. We're going to solve them just like we would with equations. So I'm going to subtract 14 from each side to get 2x is greater than negative 6, and then divide by 2 on each side. So x is greater than negative 3. On your number line, be sure you're including at least 5 numbers. So I'm going to put negative 3 kind of in the middle, and then negative 4, negative 5, negative 2, negative 1. This will be an open circle at negative 3, and since x is greater than, it will go to the right. Okay, part B. Start by subtracting 4 on each side. So we get 3 is less than or equal to negative 3/10 x. Divide both sides by negative 3/10. That leaves us with x. Because we divided by a negative, we're going to flip the inequality sign, and 3 divided by negative 3/10 would be negative 10. I like to rewrite it with the variable on the right-hand side. You don't have to, but it makes it a little easier for me to graph. Okay, including 5 numbers, so I'll put negative 10 kind of in the middle, negative 11, negative 12, negative 9, negative 8. Little scrunch there. Okay, this time we're going to have a closed circle, and since x is less than that value, we're going to shade in all of the answers to the left. Okay, next we have a word problem. We're going to be setting two expressions equal to each other to form our equation. The variable that you're going to use for this, it's okay if you used a different letter, but you should have something about number of miles. Our break-even point is going to tell us when the number of miles and the cost is the same for both. So the equation, I can start off with the really good rentals. They charge $20 plus 50 cents per mile. Then I can look at crazy cars. They charge $15 plus 75 cents per mile. So we're going to multiply the cost by the miles. Okay, we want to know when these two values are the same, so we're going to put an equal sign in between them. Okay, next we are going to solve that equation. There are 4 correct first steps. I suggest getting the variables together and do that in a way so that you end up with a positive coefficient. So I'm going to subtract the 0 and 5/10 m from each side. And then over here I added a 0 just to have everything line up. So this would be 0 and 25 hundredths per mile. We'll bring down everything we haven't used and then subtract 15 from each side. So we get 0 pairs 5 is equal to 0 and 25 hundredths m, and then we'll divide by the coefficient. Dividing by 1/4 is, oops, sorry, not m, just the 0.25. Dividing by 1/4 is the same as multiplying both sides by 4. You could also put 5 inside the box and do long division. So we do this twice, so it's the same as 500 divided by 25. Either way, you will get 20 for the value of m, and since this is a word problem, you will include units, which are miles. Okay, next, another geometry type problem. In this problem, if I look at my picture, x is this side length right here. So I could say that x represents the longer side length of the rectangle. So again, x is just a side length. All right, the equation that's going to represent this, we need to make sure we pay attention to this. So I'm just going to break up each part. So the perimeter of the triangle, that would be represented by x plus 8 plus 14 plus 3x. So I'm just adding up all the side lengths. That's the perimeter of the triangle. Then I have this keyword is. That tells me to put an equal sign there. Move this over just a bit. Then it says that we need it to be 3 times as big as the perimeter of the rectangle. So I'm going to do 3 times whatever the perimeter of the rectangle is, which in this case would be 2 plus x plus 2 plus x. Again, you might have another way of representing that. Maybe you did 4 plus 2x. It means the same thing. We just need to make sure that we do 3 times that rectangle. Okay, from here we can go ahead and solve. When I combine like terms, I'm going to get 4x plus 22 equals 3 times 2x plus 4, which could be rewritten as 6x plus 12. Okay, get variables combined on one side. Can do that by subtracting 4x. So 22 equals 2x plus 12. Now combine constants. We'll subtract 12 from each side. So 10 is equal to 2x. Divide by 2, and we get 5 is equal to x. And I kind of ran over into that bottom portion. So back up here, I could say this side length is 5 centimeters. Okay, so now we need the perimeter of each figure. For the triangle, I'll keep that in green to match what we did right here. I'm going to do, so we'll do triangle is 5 plus 8 plus 14 plus 3 times 5. And so when you simplify that one, you're going to get a triangle perimeter of 42 centimeters. Okay, the rectangle I did in blue, so we'll do the rectangle would be 2 plus 5 plus 2 plus 5, which would be a total perimeter of 14 centimeters. Okay, we're going to do one quick check. The perimeter of the triangle is supposed to be 3 times as large as the perimeter of the rectangle. So if I do 14 times 3, it should equal 42, and it actually does, so I can be pretty confident that I did everything correctly. All right, next couple are solving equations. So we'll begin by distributing. 3.5 times 4h is 14h. 3.5 times negative 3 is negative 10.5. And then I'm going to combine variable terms by subtracting 14h on each side. So negative 10.5 equals 12h plus 1.5. Next, subtract 1.5 from each side. So negative 12 equals 12h. And last step, divide by 12 on both sides to get negative 1 equals h. Just to save time in this video, we're going to do a quick mental check. So if h is negative 1, 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 minus 3 is negative 7. And negative 7 times 3.5 would be 24.5. Okay, the other side, I'm going to do 26 times negative 1, which would be negative 26. And negative 26 plus 1.5 is also 24.5. So again, I'm kind of skimming over the check it step just so that this video doesn't become too long. Okay, part B, we need to distribute. So negative 12, nothing happens yet, equals negative 5m, and then negative plus negative is positive, so you want to have plus 10. Okay, combining like terms, bringing everything else down. Next step will be to subtract 13 from each side. So we get negative 25 equals negative 5m. Divide by negative 5 on both sides, and you get a solution of positive 5. So again, we'll do check it step. Go through this kind of quickly. Negative 5 times 5 minus 2 plus 3. 5 minus 2 is 3. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15. And negative 15 plus 3 is in fact negative 12. So we got that one right. Okay, a few more solving equations. Still distributing first. So 5 equals negative 3y plus 21 plus 5 minus 4y. Combine like terms. Negative 3y plus negative 4y is negative 7y. Positive 21 plus positive 5 is 26. And then we still have 5. Okay, two-step equation from here. Subtract 26 from each side. And divide by negative 7. So 3 is equal to y. Okay, check it step. 5 is on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we're going to do 3 minus 7 plus 5 minus 4 times 3. So 3 minus 7 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 3 is 12. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And positive 12 plus negative 12 is 0. And 5 is equal to 5. All right, moving on to part D. 2/3 times 6c is 4c. 2/3 times negative 12 is negative 8. 1/4 of 8c is 2c. And 1/4 of negative 20 is negative 5. Okay, combine variables. So I'm going to subtract 2c from each side. 2c minus 8 equals negative 5. Add 8 to each side. So 2c equals 3. And then we'll divide both sides by 2 to get 1.5 or 1 5/10 if you write it as a decimal. Okay, when you plug that in and do your check it step, you're going to get -2 on each side. So again, just trying to keep this video a little bit shorter. You can come and ask me if you want to actually see that check it step worked out. All right, next up, we are translating some words into an equation. So we'll just break it down. 2 more than would be 2 plus. 4 times, there's just going to be 4 multiplied by something. Quantity of means we're going to have parentheses. So n decreased by 5, n minus 5. Then we have is, that tells us where the equal sign goes. Or actually, is equal, they're both there, is equal to. And then we have 18 less than 4. That means, I'm sorry, 4 times the quantity of n. So that means we're going to do something minus 18. So 18 less than, and then 4 times the quantity of n, which is just 4n. So that would be your starting equation. Then it says we're going to solve it. So when I distribute, I will get 2 plus 4n minus 20 equals 4n minus 18. Okay, combining like terms, 2 and -20 is -18. Again, there are other correct steps first, as long as it comes out the same way. Next, I'm going to subtract 4n from each side. And I'm left with -18 equals -18, which is a true statement. My variable has completely canceled out. So that means my variable is equal to all real numbers. All right, on to the last page, we're going to set up an inequality. It tells us to define our variable. To do that, look for the question, and that's going to be your variable. So W is number of weeks. Okay, inequality that represents the situation. He starts with $50, and each week he's going to spend $4 2 different times. So we're going to subtract out the $4 that he spends each of the 2 times, and he does that per week. That amount that he has left needs to be greater than or equal to $12 because he wants to save that much. If you simplify it, you might get something like 50 minus 8w, so as long as yours would mean the same thing. Okay, solving the inequality, I'm going to subtract 50 from each side. So -8w is greater than or equal to -38. And then divide both sides by a negative, which means the inequality symbol will reverse. And we get W is less than or equal to 4.75 weeks. When you are doing a word problem, make sure your answer is reasonable. If we had left it as greater than and forgot to flip it, that means he could spend an infinite amount of money, which wouldn't quite work. So we'd have to have it less than. Because we need this to be a whole number, we're talking about how many weeks, we're going to graph this as a discrete answer. So I'm going to rewrite this as less than or equal to 4 weeks. I do realize that 4.75 typically rounds up, but he doesn't have enough money to do this for 5 full weeks. He only has enough money to do this for 4 weeks. So when we graph this, it's a discrete graph. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he can't have negative weeks, so basically he's going to have dots at 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I do see how time could be considered also continuous, but since our variable is representing number of weeks, we're just going to be looking at the whole number of weeks. Okay, so final portion. He can buy mochas for 4 weeks. All right, complete answer. James can buy mochas for up to 4 weeks and still keep $12 on his gift card. All right, last two. We're just expanding the expression, combining like terms. So we've already kind of practiced this with equations, but now we'll just do the expressions. So distribute first, negative 2n minus 6 plus 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times negative 2n is negative 14n. Combine like terms, negative 2n plus negative 14n is negative 16n. And negative 6 plus 35 is positive 29. All right, last one. We're going to do 2/3 of 12z. So 2 times 12 is 24. 24 divided by 3 is 8. 2/3 times 9. 2 times 9 is 18. 18 divided by 3 is 6. And then negative times positive is negative. Half of 8z is 4z. And then negative times negative is positive. Half of 20 is 10. All right, 8z plus negative 4z is 4z. And positive 6 plus positive 10 is positive 16. All right, hopefully your review sheet is all the way corrected now. Use this to help you be sure you're ready for the test, and be sure to ask if you have any questions that weren't answered in this video. Thank you.